Many thanks for staying with us. It's still Frontline on New Frontiers Television. Now we'll move on to the interview segments of the show where we want to look at the very national issues that is very germane to economic stability and growth, and that is the issue of the rising external debt. Nigeria external debt has been steadily rising, and it is raising concerns among Nigerians, and also it's raising concerns about the country's economic stability and long-term growth, with the government consistently and continue relying on foreign loans to fund developmental projects and recovery projects. The question that is begging for an answer is how sustainable is this part? So to discuss with us on this show this morning, we are joined by Comrade Ayopo. Comrade Ayopo is an in-house analyst and, of course, a public affairs analyst and also an economist. So it's good to have you joining us on the program.
Once again, it's a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Good
morning, viewers.
Thank you so much for coming. Now, let's talk about the Nigeria external debt that has been rising, increasing over the years, and has become a major concern for Nigerians. What is your take on this?
Well, let me start with this. First of all, let me appreciate President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan, former President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan, at least for still keeping it to as low as 12.6 trillion when he was leaving office. As at when he left office, our debt profile was 12.6 trillion naira, according to what? According to the Debt Management Office. But immediately President Muhammadu Buhari took over, the debt, I want to be specific with figure, I don't want to guess. The debt profile rose from 12 trillion 600 billion naira to 97 trillion 300 billion naira. When President Muhammadu Buhari left office, that was 2023, if I'm not mistaken. Then between December 2023, when this present administration came on board, between December 2023 and March 2024, this figure is from the Debt Management Office. When it has to do with issue of what? National debt. Because it has to do with both the domestic debt and foreign debt. So it's better to always relate with the Debt Management Office.
So let me quickly just take you to what the Debt Management Office said recently, that by January, Nigeria external debt may rise to $45.1 billion by the end of 2024. So let's just move forward to that. That is $45.1 billion.
It's a pity. Yeah. One thing is obvious, though, if we still look at the debt with the revenue, debt with our revenue, it was just recently that we began to use about 52. Our debt in ratio to the revenue is 50.2%, or either 52.2% or 50.2%. So to a large extent, the government official will still be looking at that we still have a profile to borrow more. And one thing with the international community is that what they will paint you to you in such a way that, okay, with this debt stroke GDP ratio, GDP means the gross domestic product for the year, that with this debt stroke GDP ratio, you still have the capacity to borrow. If you look at a country like Ghana, the debt to GDP ratio of Ghana is 84.9%. So Ghana is almost in a situation whereby it is not too encouraging for them to keep borrowing. If you look at the country like South Africa, it is 72.2%. Then countries like Kenya and Egypt, it is 70.1%. Nigeria just hit 52%. That's why, to a large extent, the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank will still make us to understand that, okay, we still have capacity to borrow in order to fund our expenditure. Well, lo and behold, the idea of borrowing is not a crime, if we want to be sincere with ourselves. But what you spend the money on is what matters most. Unfortunately, in Nigeria, we borrow to finance what is not reasonable. Excessive government spendings is what we borrow money for. Look at the packages of the political office holder. There is nowhere in the world, except in African countries, there's nowhere in the developed world where they spend such money to maintain the offices of political office holder. So what makes it so unfortunate with the degree of our borrowing is what we actually spend the money on. Bulk of the borrowing, most countries borrow because of capital expenditure. We want to build roads, we want to build bridges, we want to build roads that leads to internal communities, to the interior of the community. But unfortunately, we spend bulk of this loans on recurrent expenditure, payment of salaries. And if you look at the salaries of the civil servant, it is still reasonable. In fact, they are underpaid when compared to other countries in the world. But unfortunately, when you look at that of the political office holder, that's when you begin to lament that why must you continue to borrow in this magnitude in order to fund this kind of expenditure? So that is where the problem
comes. So it doesn't coincide with the economic difficulty in the country, as some people have believed that the rising external debt coincide with the economic difficulty in the country as we speak. Is that really the case, or do you think there are other factors behind it?
Now, if I may come in, so that I don't bore you too much, because I have the debt profile from the debt management office. The major reason why the debt profile became so high in recent time is because of the devaluation of the naira. Now, if you borrow now, as at when naira was 450 naira to $1. When you borrow money in dollars, because definitely most bulk of our loans comes from foreign bodies. Though we borrow Nigeria borrows domestically as well. But from the foreign body, if you borrow money from International Monetary Fund or other international organizations out of the country, definitely you are likely to borrow in dollars. By the time you convert it to naira, with the naira that has been devalued, which is almost one of the worst currency in Africa for now. Now, by the time, because of the devaluation of the naira, anything we borrow became so magnified in the debt in our debt profile. It might look big before the politicians, okay, let's use this to run the government. But one thing is obvious, that anything you borrow, definitely you are going to service it. And yes, and you must service regularly. It is mandatory. What is so painful now is that we are using almost a big chunk of our resources, of our revenue, trillions of naira to service these loans. Yet you can't beat it. If you borrow, you must service the loan. And mind you, the people that actually give us these loans, they are not so bothered about the money itself. But what we continue to generate from the interest that is being used to service
we'll get to that. We will still get to that. We'll get to that. But let me quickly just ask this, because as it is now, Nigeria total debt is set to it at an all-time high at 136 trillion naira, following the fresh request from President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to the National Assembly to approve 1.77 trillion naira, approximately that is $2.2 billion, external borrowing plan to support the 2024 budget. So with this Nigeria external debt rapid rising, what threat do you think it poses to the Nigeria economic stability and the common Nigerians on the streets?
First of all, before we dive into that question, I have a question for the government itself. Now, when they were coming into power, they were so particular about fuel subsidy. Now the fuel subsidy has been removed. The fuel subsidy has been gone. Subsidy is gone. We don't want to hear any other language from them. They say subsidy is gone, and subsidy is gone as far as we are concerned. Now, they went further to devalue the naira. After devaluing the naira, they gave us the impression that, after devaluing the naira, there will be economic stability. So we want to believe that now the naira has been devalued, there should be economic stability. Now, in order to fund government projects, nobody is saying that they will not borrow. Yes, you cannot beat it. If you want to fund, especially when you read out a budget, definitely you need money to execute that budget. Because bulk of the revenue you are expecting, like now we are going into 2025. There's a revenue for 2025. We have not made that revenue. The resources, the exercise that will generate that revenue has not been carried out. But money has to be pumped into 2025 to do what? To ensure that, okay, those revenue are being earned. So nobody is actually against the idea of borrowing. But one thing that is beating our imagination and hurting most Nigerians now is that now on the side of the government spending, there is recurrent expenditure that goes into the what? Servicing of the office of the political office holders is what pains us at the back of our mind. Definitely, bulk of the money you want to borrow. Nobody is saying that you will not borrow to finance the budget. But bulk of the money that is about to be borrowed, we know that bulk of them will go into waste. I call it wastage. When somebody goes home with 18 million naira per month, doing what? To justify what? There was a time a senator was saying what some senators earn. Now, you earn that kind of money. We can't see any concrete development in the society. All the roads that goes to the interior are bad. So I will say, it's a two-faced issue. Had it been the money is about to be spent on capital projects, on railways, on roads, on electricity, which is extremely epileptic and becoming more epileptic day in day out. And maybe the money will be spent on this thing, we wouldn't have seen it as a crisis. But because of the nature of our country, seeing that kind of no, automatically, it will not gladden anybody's heart. That's why as an individual, as an economist, I'm not glad, though I know that it is inevitable to borrow that no. But I'm not glad because I know the direction in which bulk of the money is going into. I'm not saying that the money will be embezzled. I'm not saying that. But I will still call it misappropriation of funds because it will be used to fund what will not lead to any form of development.
All right, so just like I did mention earlier that the debt management office had said that the Nigeria's external debt may rise to $45.1 billion at the end of this year, that is 2024, as the federal government advances plan to secure additional external funding. Now, what can Nigeria government do? Or before we talk about that, let's talk about the people that we collect this debt from. The World Bank, the Sukuk, and every other, the Sukuk, the Euro bonds, the International Monetary Fund, and all of that. Now, what do you think their role should be, particularly in a situation like this? Because they keep pushing us to get the loan, and Nigerians keep going to also get the loan from all these institutions.
Let me be plain with you this morning. They're just being wicked. In the last convention, G8 summit that was held the other time, I saw when the British Prime Minister arrived. I saw when the German Chancellor arrived. I saw when the leaders from the developed nations arrived. They arrived in simple vehicles. There was even a particular prime minister of a country had to join another prime minister from another country, and they drove to the summit in a single car. But when African leaders were showing up in the summit, number one, they didn't go to those countries with vehicles, but they got there. Some of them hired motorcades of about 15 vehicles, 18 vehicles, 10 vehicles, and they went with motorcades. Extremely flamboyant lifestyle. It got to say, I was looking at the countenance of the European leaders, the way they were looking at the African leaders. Are you people even serious at all? Do you know what you are doing? They saw that unwarranted flamboyancy from them. But unfortunately, despite seeing this flamboyancy, and despite seeing this form of waste, let me put it that way, they are always eager to give out these loans to African countries, knowing fully well that, okay, by giving them this loan, number one, whether would they like it or not, bulk of the revenue from those countries will be used to service those loans. There's every tendency that they can't pay back. Because they cannot pay back those loans, they will be automatically indebted. Just look at the situation since President Obasanjo appealed for debt relief. That was 1999, between 1999 and 2003, when he appealed for debt relief, and we experienced that debt relief. Has there ever been a government that clears debt in Nigeria?
The debt keeps rising.
It doesn't exist. So they know that, okay, these people cannot pay this debt. So number one, once they give out pay back this loan, once they give out those loans, then the conditions to service the loans is what they are really interested in. That's why at times when you look at it in the long run, from the servicing of the loan, they would have even collected more than what the country collected as loan in the first place. And automatically, if you are indebted to somebody, then you have to live by their policy. You have to live by their rules. The template of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, His Excellency, is being determined by the World Bank. I knew when the World Bank president came down to Nigeria in the early days of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and they kept telling him that the programs he has on ground, government-wise, is fantastic, that he should continue with it. There was a time they told him that the government should remove their hand completely from education, that let people, the citizens, fund it with their sweat. Whereas in their own country, they have subsidies on several parameters. They have subsidies on food in the European country, but they come with templates. And once you are indebted to this country, there's no way you will be forced to abide by their templates. So they know what they are doing. It is not out of love. Those loans they are giving is not out of love, because they can easily tell African countries that why must you collect this loan? Go and use the resources you have. And definitely the leaders will go back to their country. All those waste that we see within the government circle, waste where you pay excessively, you buy a 1 billion, you buy 1 billion naira car as official car for a public office holder. All those kind of irrational behaviors will stop. But these bodies that gives this loan, they don't want all those things to stop. They want the country to become indebted to them over and over. That's why they kept giving out this loan. Mind you, they will give this loan and they will still give loan again.
Okay, let's quickly talk about the utilization of the fund, because I believe that judging from the past, let's look at it from the past. Thank God we have the record. Would you say that this fund has been judicially utilized? And looking at the current administration, what do you think they should prioritize in making sure that even if at all we are borrowing, if at all we are even taking all this loan, how do we use this effectively? Do you think there are some ministries that should be prioritized in taking when taking all these loans?
Go to the federal secretariat. Just go to the federal secretariat and look at situation and just look around. From the federal secretariat, travel from here. This is Ibadan. Travel from here down to Abuja. Travel from Ibadan down to Abuja and see whether the loans have been utilized. Thank God you use electricity every day. Look at the nature of the power supply in the country presently, with a national grid that keeps collapsing. Yoruba will say somebody Yoruba call it they call it warapa. What do they call it in English language? Epilepsy. Yeah, a national grid that is so epileptic that it got to a state that it collapsed twice in a week. Just look at all those spendings. You will know that these loans have not been utilized. It has been spent on waste. I think with these loans have been utilized, we will not be talking about the same thing. We will not be coming up with the same campaign promises every year. Mind the 2027 election is coming. They will still campaign with electricity. They will still campaign with good road. They will still campaign with pipe-borne water. Things that under normal circumstances, these loans will have sorted out. But unfortunately, bulk of the loan, most of the loan is spent on recurrent expenditure. Day-to-day service. You want to maintain somebody's office. Didn't we hear? You want to renovate an office for 21 billion naira. You want to build this place 7 billion naira. You want to do this 12 billion naira. You want to buy official cars. You want to buy private jets. So the loans were not spent. The loans that we took the other time were not spent judiciously, and the ones we are going to take because of the present template on ground, what is being paid to political office holders, I will tell you categorically, it will not be spent judiciously.
Okay, now what are your suggestions? Are there things that you think the government should prioritize, like some ministries? Because I've asked myself the same question, that not that some ministries are just there, they are making money. There are some revenues that this ministry generates. So do you think there are other ministries that the federal government should prioritize for us to actually generate more revenue that would take care of our expenditures?
If the government wants to generate revenue, they know where to generate revenue. If we want to be sincere with ourselves, National Electric Power Authority functioned during the military regime. It functioned. All you need to do is fight indiscipline and corruption, which the government can fight if they are willing to fight. We can generate money from power supply. And if you want to work in partnership with the private sector, the government can sit down, yes, get a private partnership system. The government can they can last with the private sector, pump money in and generate money with power alone. In the side of refineries functioned in this country in the past. And if you feel that refinery can no longer function because of corruption that has eaten deep into the system, okay, why not last with foreign companies? Bring them down here. It's like buying shares. Government can bring down the foreign companies, say, oh yeah, you show up, even if they don't have enough money. If the foreign companies don't have enough money, once they have a good track record that, okay, they can manage refineries, then they can manage refineries. You bring them here, government can say that, okay, we are buying a share, we are buying 50% shares of this company, devote good money into it. Let the company, yes, the other 50%, the company can bring it out on their own, or they can decide to share shares to the public, anyhow they want to do it. They sit down, build refineries and function. From that refinery, the country will generate money. We shouldn't deceive ourselves. There are so many factories, partner with foreign bodies, and we will suggest that they partner with Nigerians, partner with foreign bodies, bring them down here, buy shares from them, buy bonds, 50%. If government can hold 70% of the shares, it's possible. And it will be, and the government will not manage the system. It will be the private sector that will manage the system, and they will make money. The government can actually save itself from these no's. I don't want to believe that they are not educated enough, because I saw a lot of PhD holders, master's holders, even professors in the corridors of power. So they are well versed when it comes to knowledge. All they need to do is what? Sit down and generate money and save us from this loan. Because mind you, this present loan that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu wants to collect from the now, it's not the last. Will not be the last in this is 4 years administration.
And it's able to take care of the deficit in 2024 budgets.
We can't beat it now. The revenue from 2024 will be used to service the loan. It will not pay back the loan. It will be used to the revenue will be used to service the loan, and it's going to bounce back on us here. Whereas some people are going to buy what? They are going to buy fleet of cars from that loan.
So in essence, you are saying that we actually have the resources.
We have the resources to move this nation forward, which they know. Ajaokuta Steel Company Limited is flying fallow there. The iron ore are in Itakpe.
But we can't do without borrowing.
Must we continue to borrow? Should we continue to borrow? Even if we want to borrow now, why not use it to finance that project? That project worked in the past. You had these citizens from Kogi State. Then Kogi was under Kwara State. You had these citizens of Kwara State going to other states then. Once they are done, they fly down to Itakpe, or they fly down to Ajaokuta.
Because I can recall that the former minister of is it Works now, Babatunde Fashola, did say something during an interview with a television station, saying that every country borrows. Every country borrows, but it now depends on where you channel.
Where you channel that loan. That's why I said it initially that there's no harm in borrowing, but what you spend the money is just like a father. I take loans. I remember taking loan to buy a plot of land. I remember taking loan to buy a car. And the family benefited from it. They benefited from that land and they benefited from the car. But if I take loan to go and marry a new wife, or I collect loan and spend it on frivolities, then the family will pay the price. I will pay the price, the family too will pay the price. Because whether I like it or not, that loan has to be serviced. So what we are saying is that what they spend the money on is what matters at this moment. If they spend it on capital project and you travel all the way from Ibadan to Lokoja to Abuja, and you know that, oh, this road is in a good condition, you will not be complaining that, oh, why did they borrow money? Or you can see electricity, even 10 hours in a day, we will appreciate it. You come across electricity 10 hours in a day for all bands. In my region, they place us on band A. You may not see that for 4 good days, 5 days. You will not see electricity. If you come across the power supply, it is either solar or a candle. So in that situation, there's no way we will celebrate borrowing in that kind of country. And the system that have been gulping the past loans is still there, waiting to gulp any loan that comes in again.
All right, I want to say very thank you to Comrade Hayopo for this wonderful time on the show as we look at the rising external debts. And it's coming on the ease where the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, is seeking an approval for 1.77 trillion naira and external borrowing to support the 2024 budget. We only hope that things will get better in subsequent years or subsequent days. And the money will be spent judiciously.
On capital projects.
Exactly. That will bring development. And of course, that will also make us to repay the loans as soon as possible. Many thanks to Comrade Hayopo for this wonderful time on the program this morning, and to our viewers. We'll see you again tomorrow by God's grace. My name is Temitope Oladipo. Do have a wonderful day.